And the good part is that YouTube won't take me down for this is not copyrighted songs.
It's not copyrighted?
Really? No.
That's a good singer.
Welcome to the Sitecore User Group Brazil of May. I have special guests today with us who are here to provide this masterclass. I'm talking about the big two legends, Kamruz Jaman, 12 times MVP, and Mike Reynolds, 10 times MVP. Yes, I'm starting to blend my languages here. I almost start speaking C#. All right. That said, as you know, we normally do a quick intro, but today, the intro is the less important part of our user group because we do have this masterclass about XM Cloud Forms. I've been seeing a lot of people speaking about this. People are really greedy to get their hands on it. The more attention it gets, the more interesting it looks to me. And that's why we have this only one session today, so we can enjoy every minute. But before that, let's start with some announcements. First of all, I think we had an interesting week, and a couple weeks where people are posting everywhere. They're LinkedIn, Twitter, they're getting their MVP swags. For those who don't know, if you are a Sitecore MVP, you get your plate or award, trophy, if you want to say, plus normally kind of good quality swags. I have my backpack from 2018 right there. I use very weekly, and last week, we got a pleasure to get all that delivered, which I believe it's a different, a next level improvement in the Sitecore MVP program, right? In the past, we had people getting their MVPs awards in the end of the year, which is quite, if you want to show up, is not exactly the best way of doing that, right? I think, right, Kamruz, we got some experience in the past like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it ended up that if you didn't go to Symposium, if you got a little bit lucky, you went to SUGCON, they might have had it at SUGCON, and I say might. But usually people go to Symposium, you go to the MVP Summit, you get your MVP swag at that point, right? The award plaque and a few other bits and pieces, but of course that's in October or close to November, right? Sometimes I had it at SUGCON, at SUGCON Europe. I remember last year was in Malaga, and the awards were there. It's just that they were in customs, so nobody actually got them. So that was a little bit of a problem, right? So,
it was stuck in Barcelona, right? Or something like that, I remember.
Yeah.
It is quite Smart, clever that they have partnered with that Ladybug store, web store, because it allows everybody to have a free purchase, and also you can go ahead and purchase your own swags, extra swags like t-shirts and things like that. I didn't get mine, but you know, it was definitely an improvement. So I'm glad they did that.
Yeah, I picked up so I picked up some extra swag. Yeah, just picked up a hoodie and a little Sitecore cap. Again, really, really nice for some of those people that wanted some extra swag, um, to pack it in with their MVP package. It was a special package, right, that we got this year. We didn't know what was in it until it arrived, which was a nice
Yeah.
surprise for everybody. The other thing is it's really, really nice that all the MVPs, doesn't matter where you are in the world, actually got not just their plaque, but also some extra MVP swag, because that's also something that didn't always happen, right? Unless you attended the MVP summit in person, which, let's face it, for a lot of people, it's just not possible, right? Just because of where they live or the company they work for, or whatever the reason that may be. They did obviously send out a lot of swag for people during COVID because there was no in-person meetups.
Hmm.
So we kind of got a little bit, I won't say spoiled, but it's really, people do put in a lot of hard work. I think it is deserving to receive some of this additional swag for them to enjoy and people to make additional memories with, right? Rather than just a plaque. I know I say just a plaque that sits on the wall, but with the mug, for example, you can use that every day and it will give you a different kind of feeling. And when it's you can sit with a
Sure.
blanket around your fireplace and on those cold evenings.
That blanket, that blue blanket, is now covering my couch in a TV room, so I can see it every day. But my preferred swag was this blue and quite peculiar. Uh,
The
what is
socks.
this? Yeah, socks. Yeah, I didn't try.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, cool. Huge improvement. We are very thankful for that. SUGCON India is coming June 6 and 7. Are you going, Kamruz?
Unfortunately not. Yeah, unfortunately this year is going to be tricky for any travel for a few months for me. So just with some family things coming up. But I did go back in 2019. It was a really, really great event. I really, really enjoyed SUGCON India, and
Cool.
obviously if you like Indian food, then you'll love this event because the food was amazing. And the
Ah,
people and the people were great, super, super friendly, as you'd expect uh, in this community, right?
indeed, yes. I love people from, yeah, everybody I knew from the community in India and for the work. They are always so friendly. But I felt that was interesting that in the official picture that they put in the website, we have three people from Ecuador, from Latin America, and not,
Oh.
and not only one girl from India, which was cool, peculiar at the same time. I feel that makes us closer. I like to think that way. So I wish I could cross.
Maybe they're calling for a SUGCON Latin America. That's subliminally the
Yes,
telling you, right?
that's for sure.
It needs to happen.
Right, right, right. And XP 10.4 is out. It has been one, not just a new version of Sitecore, but I believe it's also a catharsis way of coming out with a new version, and that also reaffirms the importance of the platform that has been quite behind in the roadmaps in the past years. Do you have any opinion about that, Mike? Mike Reynolds?
I mean, I'd love to see what's out there. I haven't read what was released yet. I'm just emerging from a project where we upgraded to 10.3 point in theory 2, which was a security patch to 10.3.1. So once I would say the exhaustion kind of wears off, I can actually go through this and see what's there so that I can kind of recommend it to my team. Although we did this upgrade for 9 months, I'm not sure anybody wants to look at another upgrade. But I would love to see if maybe this will actually solve some issues that we had encountered while upgrading to different versions of 10.3.x.
Perhaps that's that bug that bugs you for so many years is one of
Yeah.
these 200 plus features that they are delivering. I hope so.
Yeah.
Do you have
Sure.
any highlights? I saw some important material from you, Kamruz. Do you have any highlights from this
Yeah,
movement?
so we are actually doing a webinar on this on Tuesday, I think it is. So join us, find the link on socials. Yeah, I think it is, as you said, Rodrigo, it's an important release. I think not, the details of the release aside, I think it is a very, very important release from a platform perspective. Obviously, just coming out of SUGCON as well, Sitecore reaffirmed their long-term commitment to the DXP platform. I think that has been a worry for a lot of customers, a lot of partners, and a lot of developers like us, because this is the platform like we mostly know, and this is what a lot of like the vast majority of our customers are on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if it looked like for a while, okay, everyone has to move to XM Cloud, and then there's a question of how do you do that? When Mike's talking about an upgrade, and an upgrade is taking this long, an entire rewrite is going to take much longer, right? And
Oh
that
yeah.
became, that became a big issue. So I think the fact that they've reaffirmed that their long-term commitment to XPXM on-prem in PaaS, managed cloud, it will give a lot of stability for customers. It will give them a lot of breathing room to figure out what their roadmaps are, what they want to do, and in what time frame they want to make those changes. XM Cloud is definitely, I think, the future, right? In terms of, like, it just talked about the upgrade. If you're on the SaaS, you can avoid all of those pain points and just get these new features automatically. There are a number of changes, like around on the platform, such as the accessibility improvements on the content editor and the interfaces. Again, that probably feeds into XM Cloud as well. So hopefully they're both seeing these benefits. There's a bunch of like platform, obviously bug fixes and things that you talked about. There's some updates to some JavaScript libraries and things to bring those up to date. Patch out any security issues around those old and outdated JavaScript libraries, as well as some of the internal platform libraries that I used, and that's probably one of the 200 enhancements that they have. Obviously, infrastructure support, SQL Server 2022, some of the newer versions of Windows for the hosting, because you're going to want to be on those latest versions. There's some minor changes around, like, there's a new role. It's a read-only role that's just out of the box, whereas before you'd have to go and set all of those up. If you wanted somebody just to be able to go in and browse content, which you often do, sometimes that might be tacked on to a workflow approval role as well. We want somebody to view the content, approve the content, but not actually edit the content. There's some changes to the UI to be able to add languages purely through the UI and not having to go through config files and backend changes. Again, this is great for the people using things like SXA, because then that will give you the ability to just quickly add new languages to your websites and things like that. Data extraction. So there's a new open source module for extracting XDB data out of the analytics, which I think is actually going to be really, really useful. So think about things like integration with Power BI for your reporting now, instead of having to do those Sitecore reports, because we all know when you have to get into that, you have to get into things like Speak, which is painful, more painful than actually working with XDB sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then around XDB, there's a new, and I haven't looked into this, but this sounds really, really interesting. It's a codeless schema extension for XDB to allow you to extend essentially XConnect without needing any code. So I'm really curious to see how that works and what that actually means, because again, it's been another one of those things where you have to jump through lots of hoops to create those XConnect filters and things like that, right? And those extensions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, a bunch
do
of
have
performance
I,
security issues. Yeah.
I do have this interesting reflection from Anderson Fortaleza from our user group, and he's coming like with this idea in XM Cloud only pages, and you do have Experience Editor there, but you're disencouraged to use that. But we used to have Horizon in the past, and they took off. But now they reaffirming that the platform is there, and you only have Experience Editor. So what is how do we get out from this threat, right? Should we use Experience Editor or not?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? You don't really have any choice. I mean, they supposedly have made some performance improvements, whether that, how much that will help, how much that will make a difference, I don't know. Horizon, annoyingly, obviously, for all of us, Horizon in 10.2 got to the point where it had a lot of feature parity with Experience Editor. There's still some things missing, obviously, but it was like now as close as we ever got to just being production ready. So for it to have disappeared was very, very annoying. One thing they did announce as part of the 10.4 was, hey, we're going to start to release things as modules so that those things can be developed and enhanced at their own pace without waiting for the platform, right? So the big releases of the platform every year, which is of course all good until you think back and think, okay, well, we had some of that already, right? With like the publishing module, publishing service, and Universal API, and to a certain extent, Horizon. They were separate modules that you could install. They just needed to actually do the improvements and the continuous improvements and continuous releases of those products as modules. But we'll see how that goes, I guess, and hopefully we'll get something like Horizon back again at some point.
Yeah. Yes, Mike.
It seems like you've done a lot of in-depth research on 10.4. Cam, are there any breaking code changes from any Sitecore backend APIs? That's always my number one question, because there's a lot of legacy instances out there that people have been developing on for 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I haven't gone through an upgrade yet, so I can't really comment on the exact nature of the changes and stuff. What I do know is if you are moving from a 10.1 upwards, then the upgrades are actually a lot more simple than they used to be, because you can literally just deploy a 10.4 instance and just connect it to your 10.1 databases, because you no longer have like the core items, the platform items in the database itself. They're now in the IRA file, right? So that allows some ease of upgrades and migrations and things like that.
Lift and shift, like they like to say in the past. Yeah, but now, literally, looks like it's close to that, right? So that's it. I would like to send a challenge to the community. You might want to spend your time plugging pages with the Sitecore 10x. Your life will be in risk, but the community will be thankful forever. All right.
Or somebody take the Horizon module, open source it, and bring it back to 10.4 or something. I don't know. Right?
Adam Naimanovich and Michael West to put it in SPE and just like run a commandlet and just make it work.
Yeah,
indeed. Alrighty. So recently we got this hackathon that like traditionally happens every year, and for the 7th time in a row, our team Go Horse from Brazil participated in that, and we had a lot of fun putting together this Chrome extension that plugs Sitecore with ChatGPT and gives you a smart assistant to give you, answers about the place where you are. The interesting part of that is that it takes the context of the page that you are and lets you even select elements in the UI to get answers from that. It has been submitted to the Chrome Web Store, and it has been accepted recently. So I would like to ask if you want to play with it. It's going to be a pleasure to know your opinion. Scan this QR code or just go to the Chrome Web Store and type MVPinny or Go Horse. You find us. It's free, of course. You have to have your web API on ChatGPT, OpenAI, but other than that, the extension itself is free. MVPinny is a concept we put together. Go ahead.
I know you've posted on this a little bit with the ChatGPT integration that you did before, Rodrigo, and then obviously the code for your module is available on the Hackathon GitHub repo, so everyone can actually go and play with it. But you guys did a really great job on this. It was really neat to see. I was actually thinking like this would be like amazing if you could plug this into your own project and get into like project specifics of, enhancing it for your specific project. So it's like really for each project you can get a user specific, help for how they should work, what this specific component does and how it can be, what the specific options are and how they can make things happen. That would be that'd be great. Obviously it's outside of a generic kind of remit, but yeah, I was thinking of the possibilities for this. It was really amazing.
For sure, yeah, that was an interesting, very fun experience to make. The whole team was surprised by the good answers that this tool was giving us. Even it gives us the most common doubts, and most of the time it was relevant. So it was a surprise, a good surprise, and it's not the first or the last thing we have been doing with AI. MVPinny, the last version of it, has been trained on the Sitecore Partner Accelerate. You can make any questions about that, and it will also answer. Smarter than us.
So can't do
all
that
right,
way,
so
we're safe.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much the end of our intro, guys. Thank you so much. And with no further delays, I will finally drop the pen and ask Mr. Jaman and Reynolds to jump in because the masterclass are just starting. Please go ahead and screen share.
Perfect.
It's visible.
Yep, I see it. Yeah, so we're going to talk about XM Cloud Forms on Sitecore's SaaS product, XM Cloud.
So yeah, a little bit about us. As Rodrigo mentioned, I'm Kamruz Jaman, or a lot of you will probably know me as Jammy Cat. I'm a 12-time Sitecore MVP, and I'm based up in Ottawa now, but originally from the UK.
I'm Mike Reynolds. I'm known as the Sitecore Junkie in the Sitecore community. You probably have seen a wizard icon next to me. I always hide my face for some reason. I'm a 10-time Sitecore MVP based out of Manchester, New Hampshire. I am originally from New England, but I have moved down from Canada. I'm actually not that far away from Cam, although it probably took a few days of walking. So anyways. All right, so this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the history of form builders or such and such like that in the Sitecore ecosystem in history therein. Why would you want to use XM Cloud Forms? Some of the key things that it offers. Cam's going to jump in and show a demo of how to do different things that come out of the box with this thing and possible future enhancements, including what we'd love to see in the future. Hopefully Sitecore's listening. All right, so this is my favorite slide on the whole deck because it makes me think about way back when, and I go take a trip down memory lane. One thing that's probably not here is what was it like before 2009? So before 2009, and I remember this very vividly, you'd have to build your own forms. Yeah, basically back then, everything was probably it could have been XSLT rendering, or it could have been a I guess, a user control rendering. That's not the term, but that's what we used to call it, outside of the traditional nomenclature. You'd build your own form, and you'd probably send that data off somewhere else. People, especially content authors, started saying, hey, I don't want to rely on a developer to put a form together. I want to be able to do this myself. So that gave birth to web forms marketers. Sitecore came up with this module where content authors could start building forms just by adding things onto a form. And then over time, people started asking for support on, I would say, MVC, because the world had moved that way. So they had to revamp it to work in an MVC paradigm. And then later on, people wanted more. And so they started to rebuild it and called it experience forms, which was a completely new module. Not even a module, it was part of the product. It just came out of the box. It's still there on XP and XM, not XM Cloud, because we're going to talk about what is there now. And then by 2019, there was GSS support using React to build forms.
Yeah, the funny thing is, of course, I hadn't even heard of Sitecore back in 2009. So I think every version of Sitecore I've used has had web forms for marketers in, right?
You're lucky, because it wasn't like that when I started. I had to build that stuff.
And so, and I don't know, with web forms for marketers, you got to question yourself, was I lucky or was I not lucky, right? Because I know we'd actually presented on experience forms, right, Mike, when that got released. And as I was preparing this presentation, current presentation, I reminded you that you somehow pushed me, I don't want to say quite bully, but you somehow pushed me into doing a recording of web forms for marketers, a 101, and that ended up being a very, very long deep dive as well. And it was supposed to be just something that I was supposed to do for Mike West, and ended up being a recording that we ended up doing, right?
I'm going to say
that was fun.
Because he wanted me to do it, and I didn't want to do it. So I thought, somehow I motivated you to do it. So
exactly. That's good. But as part of the experience forms presentation that we did at SUGCON Berlin, we created a custom submit action, right, which posted into Slack, which took us a little while to figure out. It was, So we do actually have and we do have essentially another demo of that, doing the same thing using XM Cloud Forms. So we'll show you the difference in how that now works, essentially, to replicate that, which would be interesting to see, I think, for you guys.
All right, so why do forms matter? This is, I don't know, it's very existential if you think about it. But at the end of the day, businesses use forms for lots of reasons, especially when it comes to like customer lead generation or interacting with customers, to get feedback from customers or ideas and things like that. You want to get that stuff out fast, because to have competitive advantage, you have to move really quickly in your business or ecosystem or industry. You can't wait months for a developer to spin something up. So they matter a lot, and they matter, it matters that somebody not technical can write these things quickly and throw them up on the website. Maybe you want to do some generate some kind of I don't know, A/B testing or something on a forum to see what will resonate better for customers or not. You want to throw them out there so you can do those tests and take them down if they're not effective. Also, you probably want to have things get sent off to different services, different layers, different repository storage systems and things like that. So forms are extremely important to spin up for a business. Not only to be competitively advantaged, have competitive advantages, but to be viable. Because if you can't respond to your customers quickly, you're probably not going to succeed at all as a business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're pretty fortunate these days that, let's say, the vast majority of the projects we work on have good deployments and automation pipelines.
Yeah.
But when you're looking back at 2009, 2010, in those early days, even of Sitecore, we didn't have much of that, right? If anything.
Yeah.
So
But even
getting a
with that
change.
stuff, I mean, there's change management processes you have to worry about. Businesses are very
Yeah.
averse to like disrupting everything. They want to
Yeah.
just be able to spin this stuff up and publish it and get it out there immediately.
Exactly.
You don't want to
And
wait
just
for
say
not
this.
just developers, even with agile processes, just think about like the risk. You can make a code change and take down an entire, let's say, CD instance or something.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
why, these things have to be kind of looked at. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, we're gonna kind of jump into like Sitecore's SaaS offering, which is XM Cloud in the forms in that. Talk about some cool things that come with that. So this is a completely composable solution. It's all up in the cloud. It's completely SaaS. You don't have to do anything except just use it. Sitecore will manage this and give it to you. The good thing about this is, other than, it works with headless, it's completely an isolated sort of, let's say, solution. Sitecore can make changes and you'll get them. You don't have to worry. You don't have to do the upgrades. You don't have to change anything. They will do that all for you. The other cool thing about this is, and I still question whether there's no code or low code, but I mean, I haven't seen any code yet in any of these demos. You're just clicking buttons and dragging things around and just making it work. It's almost like us developers, or at least me, I'm going to be deprecated one day because content authors can just drag things onto a canvas and do things. And as I mentioned, this is completely SaaS. You don't have to worry about fixing bugs, or sure, you might have to enter a support ticket if you encounter something, but you don't have to fix it or prove that it's an issue. Just have support. Just go take care of it.
I did write a line online of CSS, Mike, so I count that as low code.
Is that really code? Come on, that's not code. Was it a display none?
It
All right,
was
so
actually.
was it really? All right, so yeah, just like other form builders built by Sitecore, this has a drag. It's a form builder, but here you have some cool drag and drop. Experience Forms had some of that, but this is actually more slick. Hopefully the people that built Experience Forms aren't here, so I don't want to hurt their feelings. But this is really cool. You're just dragging things onto a canvas. It just pops in, start making changes quickly. What you see is what you get. It's right there. You don't have to worry about it looking funny. And if you think about the form builder in Experience Forms, you might not get what you see because the CSS didn't really kind of get baked into that form builder until you actually put it on the page and looked at it. Here, you could just easily embed it into a page. No submit actions are required here. So you're basically sending data off to a webhook, which is basically an API managed by somebody else. You just send off a JSON payload and boom, they capture it, store it, do whatever whatever you want them to do with it. And there is no tie-in to any of the previous Sitecore Experience Forms or to Sitecore at all. It's completely a contained, isolated solution within XM Cloud. And we're going to show that stuff. Out of the box, you have 15 different field types. I think, is this the correct number? It might be more by now because they constantly make
Yeah.
updates to this thing.
It was 14, right, when it got released, but yeah,
Okay,
we'll have to
that's
double
right.
check.
It could be 16 today. I don't know. The numbers are going up because they're just introducing new things all the time. You can set validation on form fields to make them required, or you have some like formatting sort of things. That's all out of the box. The bad news is there's no credit card form field, which was my favorite one in web forms for marketers. I actually enjoyed using that, although, in practice, you'd never want to use that thing because somebody would walk off with your database filled with credit card numbers. You can style fields. Yeah, go ahead. But
that explains why you can't buy a new gold suit, Mike. That's just what I'm saying.
yeah, I don't have access to credit card fields and form data and all that kind of stuff. You can style fields and labels that you see in the visual editor. And you don't need to have a lot of technical knowledge to do that. It's pretty simple. And there are structural components to format your form. So like columns and layouts and things like that. You can drag things into different boxes like placeholders and just have something visually there for you to design your form as you're building it. And this is kind of like what I just touched on, layouts. So structural, how do I set up this form? Do I want it to be multiple columns? Do I want multiple rows? Do I want full width, half width, all that stuff? You don't have to worry about this stuff. It's all there for you to just start using and dropping fields into these different columns or boxes. And it is a responsive design, so you can tailor it based off of like the screen size. Here you can look at what would this look like on a tablet or desktop computer or your mobile device or something like that. You have these buttons here that allow you to see those different views. And my favorite of all when it comes to any form builder is a wizard form or multi-page form capability. So you can think about stepping users through multiple pages in a workflow. You can say on what, let's say you have like 3 pages. First page will ask for personal information. Second page may ask for a little bit other things or whatever. And then the last page will have some other thing you want them to fill in. It's pretty easy to actually get this to work. You can add capture or recapture on this thing out of the box as well. Cam's going to show a little demo of that on limitations of what you can do, which actually are very intuitive. You can't put recapture on the first page because why would you do that? Anyways, the form builder here will tell you can't do that. But you can break like complex forms up into multi-pages so that users can easily digest each page to fill it in. That's the point. And then out of the box, you got form templates that you can start from. You might say, I don't actually know what this thing should look like. So you just pick a form template. Maybe you like the background, maybe you like the image that comes with it, or you want to like repurpose the fields that are defined as like a starting point. So you have that capability, and you just start with that. And you can build your own, just like you could in experience forms, although here it's a lot easier, much easier. Webhooks, so I kind of touched upon this a little bit. I would say 99 out of 10 of my time, maybe even more, right? 99% of my time in experience forms was build and submit actions. And I would say maybe not as much, but similar when doing web forms for marketers when building save actions. You had to have something complex to handle the data that was stored in the form. Either send it into a database or send it to a third party or do this, do that. Here, everything's a webhook, which is basically just an API endpoint that you're sending JSON that gets generated from the form data, and you send it off to a different third-party system typically, or you can build your own webhook or system to manage that stuff. The purpose of this is that you don't have to worry about saving or storing personal identifying information, because why do you want to have that kind of risk on your shoulders? Think about storing, date of birth information, addresses, and things like that, or even like social security numbers if you're in the US. You don't want to deal with that. Send it to a third party. They probably have a solution for that stuff. Yeah, and you don't have to worry about database costs. It's even better. You think about it from a cost perspective. You can set authentication stuff on the webhooks so that you can have some kind of security around it. It's not like you're just sending this off in plain text somewhere. And concept the page, you build a form and you put it on a page. So that's pretty much all this really means. There's nothing special behind it. And conditional logic was introduced. So this was introduced pretty recently in March. Just like experience forms had this introduced, I would say it's like their first iteration after they released the module. They also did that here. Basically say, hey, if I meet this condition, show this field, or hey, if I meet this condition, do this other thing. That's what this gives you the ability to do. And then styling, you can style your fields as I've already touched upon, and then an upload field where users can upload files to attach to the form submission. This is also completely brand new, even more new than the last thing we just talked about. This was just released less than a month ago. Tomorrow will be 1 month. So as I mentioned before, Sitecore is constantly changing this thing. And you get it immediately. Like Sitecore will upgrade it. You have it. You don't have to go touch anything. But yeah, users can attach files if they need if you have a requirement for your form to let users do that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. So now, demo time. And let me grab. And then we can go through it. All right. So this is an instance of XM Cloud. It's using one of the partner demo instances, just because I don't, as Mike said, low code, no code, right? So it makes our life much, much easier than previous demos. But if we head on over to the tools, there is a new forms button in the XM Cloud Launchpad. This should be that dissimilar to the previous experience forms because it's almost in the exact same area. But once we go into our new form section, we have a list of forms. I created one earlier as a demo. I'll show that in a minute. But I can just go ahead and create a new form. And this is what I am presented with. A number of options here. So layouts, items, options, then a few options along the top. I'll go through them one by one, but essentially to start creating a page, I just need to start building a layout. Or I could use a template, but I don't want to do that. So let's drop in my layouts. I can start building in some 50-50s. I can start doing some 1/3, 2/3. I can also move those around if I need to. I can obviously also delete those things if I need to. Pretty simple, pretty intuitive. I don't have anything here yet, but you can see there is an option to view in mobile responsive as well. It's complaining about something. Okay, there you go. So this is some of the intuitive kind of wizard-like features. I'm missing an action button. I can't do anything obviously, but I also have nothing on here. Within the fields, so as Mike said, there's 15 different fields available, and then there's some basic components, image, text, spaces, and social media section. I'll go through that in a second. But again, to start building a page, I can just start dragging in fields. You can see it's already added a submit button. Probably don't want it there, so I'll just move that. A number of different types of fields. I can add some text in here. I can paste some text in there, and it'll tell me that I'm pasting some text in from somewhere else. I can keep the formatting or remove it. Remove that. Lots of different options for the types of the fields. Options for stylizing the fields. You can also drag and drop in additional bits of text. Formatting, for example. Keeps it nice and simple. With the fields itself, I mentioned there's lots of different fields here. Lots of different options on those fields as well. The name. So this, it'll pop in a default name. You will probably want to change this to something else. You can obviously update for the labels. It's really nice that it's like everything is instant. You don't have to wait to save the form before you see the changes appear. It's as I'm typing it, those changes are happening. I have options to set pre-fill values, options to set some additional help text along the bottom. You see down there. I can make things required. Or can also make a field hidden. Required and hidden doesn't obviously make sense. I can also add in a regular expression for validation as well if I have something above and beyond just required. Maybe it's a zip code or a postcode or something else like that. There are a number of different styling options on each of the individual fields, so I can obviously set different form field border colors. I can set different font sizes if I wanted to. I could also just apply to all, so that will make it consistent for the other four fields on that form. Labels, I can show and hide labels. I can change the font styles of the labels. I can change the colors of the labels, etc. Lots of different individual options to be had here. And then obviously I can still apply to all. You can even do the asterisk color. So same with the placeholder styles, and same with the individual help text. I can also hide the help text, for example. Lots of different field types. So, for example, I can have a date one for a date of birth, for example. I won't change this for now. I'll show you that in a second. I can make it required or not required, adding some pre-fills on that as well. And again, individually go and change all styles of those particular forms. There's some other additional ones, such as there's a little subplot, right? So I can make that not there. Now, I'll come back to this in a second, but you can, just go ahead, update those labels, update the text, again, update these field values. Now, these field values are important. This is essentially the key value pair that will get sent when you submit the form to your webhook, whatever your webhook post action is. So make these
property names.
Yeah, exactly, right, based on the property names. So I'll show you that in when I go to the submit actions and to the actual submit webhooks in shortly. But yeah, don't just leave them as whatever defaults are, because if it's just text 1, 2, 3 for all of these fields, it's going to become really hard for you when you get to your downstream system. It's fine here because you have a label, but in your downstream system, you're going to have to pick those up and use those in whatever you want to do with that data, and it's going to not make any sense on those, right? So if it's just date 68229, that doesn't actually mean anything, but actually date of birth is going to be much more meaningful for you on the other side of that. So as you noticed, I did obviously stylize these form fields, but it didn't apply to any of the fields that I added afterwards. We do have some options. There are some options in this options section to do things across the entire form. You can go in, enable, disable a bunch of different Google fonts, for example, which will obviously help you select font, restrict the form selections. But you can also go in and start adding in like default font colors, the default validation messages, spacer sections, button colors, all of these things. And then once you've applied these here, it will apply to all of the fields that you add thereon after, right? It won't apply to anything you've already added. Obviously, I can go in here and just reapply to all within. It's not like that. Oh yeah, that did apply. I want the field styles. If I reapply to all, it will apply to everything. So just be a little bit aware of that. I want to show you some ones. Multi-page forms. So just while I'm doing this, let's do this. Let's add in the section. What I'm going to do is actually go in and add this reCAPTCHA, and then add another form field. You'll notice that the submit button became a next button. It's copied across the entire layout that I already had on the first section. It's moved the submit button down here and added a back option here as well. You'll also notice I still have my reCAPTCHA up here, and I have a new warning up here. It's an error. And this is what Mike was saying, the intuitive nature of the form builder. It's now telling me actually the reCAPTCHA should be on the last page, which of course makes total sense. Like, why would I have a reCAPTCHA on the first page? I go to the next page, by the time I'm going to submit, it would have expired, and then I can't submit my form because it's just the reCAPTCHA's on the first one. It can't pop it up. So some of that is quite nice. Obviously, I can just move that across. Maybe not across, but I can do this. Move that. Now I can try and add reCAPTCHA back in, and it's telling me it should only be added to the last page of the form. So I'm going to do that. you'll notice that, you notice it adds these field placeholders. This is a little bit annoying, I find. So when I've added the field in, it leaves the field placeholder here. Easy enough to obviously remove, but I can then click the field placeholder and select a field that I want to add. Gives you this weird double left and right thing, but I guess that's okay. Mike also talked about the fact that these are composable. Right? This is a composable solution, and that is going to lead to something which probably not so used to seeing in the world of Sitecore, and that is when we work with experience forms in Sitecore, it's very, very much integrated, right? Everything is a Sitecore item. You know, a form is a Sitecore item, a field is a Sitecore item. The options within those fields are also Sitecore items. But in the world of composable, that doesn't make as much sense to have those ties. In composable, each system is a separate system, and you have to then loosely couple those. So with that, when we are building out these forms, we don't have an option like we used to select an item from Sitecore to serve as the options for a multi-list field, for example, or a radio button list or a checkbox list field, for example. We have to, our only option is to actually go and add these ourselves, and then so that keeps it composable, keeps it separate. It is different. We do have the option to set different values that are passed through. So essentially the display value and the value that actually gets sent through with the form itself. But we don't have the option to select something from within Sitecore itself. In the same way, if I want to add in an image, I'll just put it here, select that. I do have an image selector. I can go in and upload something from my local machine. I can direct link something. So maybe I have something in Content Hub, for example. There's a link into Unsplash, which will give you some nice stock photography, Giphy, because we all love some Giphy, right? Facebook, Google Drive, Dropbox, Instagram, OneDrive. These are probably more meant to connect with a business account rather than your personal accounts. Probably keep the photos of you on the beach drinking those mojitos to your Facebook audience rather than adding it into your business audience. But yeah, it's quite, again, pretty easy. We can just go in and add those integrations in. Nice options to resize those images, either directly from here or from within the interface as well. But again, no option to select something from the Sitecore media library. Again, the composable nature of things. We don't know when this form is published if the content and those options within Sitecore have been published, and then how do you even get those to begin with, and how is it exposed? Same with the images. So it is different. You just have to work with this new system and this new paradigm that we have. Let's save and exit that. And then I have my two options here. And then I can start actually adding in some labels for these. You can see I added one earlier. Once I've got a very, very long list, that's obviously going to help me to filter those demo forms out as I need to. And to help me find what I need, I can also filter by status and also filter by name, right? Let's create another demo form. And this time, let's go into the template library. So as Mike said, there is a template library. You can go ahead, preview a bunch of these templates in here and see what they're doing. You can also create your own. You can then use that template, and then boom, I have a template ready to go for me, preset, predefined. If I've gone in, stylized this, I have those ready to go. I can just have that style already set. If I've gone ahead, I haven't done it for this one, but if I've gone ahead and create some responsive designs for it, that will also be ready to go. This needs a little bit of work. See, I should have learned more than just display none mic, but that would have helped. But I can then actually go in and start to add and remove sections, add additional fields, add additional placeholders, do what I need to do. Great thing is if I haven't done, but if I had already had already named these fields, they'd be ready to go and set for my web integration. So I'm not then having to go in and add new fields and rename these fields manually each time. It's just, I can just go, the integration is already set, and we're good to go. Forms, comments, there is no workflow on these, but I can start to add comments to this, and then you'll see the comments will appear. And then once somebody has go in, you can see there's a little comment thing on here. The comment will pop up. Once these have been actioned, I can go and resolve it. It then disappears. I can then obviously just go and actually look at what has been resolved. I can click on those and see what's happened to those. And you can have a little bit of backwards and forwards and on that. So it doesn't have workflow, but this is as close as you're going to get to workflow on this particular version at this moment in time. Mentioned the preview, obviously tablet mode, mobile mode, versions. So we can go ahead each time and it will save a version. It does autosave. I don't know if you notice the green thing pop up every once in a while, but it does autosave as we go along. There is some conditional logic. I'll actually pop back to the other form. Let's do that. Pop back to the other form that I had created, and I'll show you the web hook as well. There is conditional logic. This is the form that I created earlier, and I'll demo this shortly. Again, I did set all of these already. I did add some conditional logic. So where the first name, you can select any of the fields on here, contains whatever value or is equal to, is not equal to, then you can show a field, hide a field, make a field required, make a field optional, and you can have multiple of these logic blocks. You can also add multiple conditions within the same block. You can also add multiple groups within the. So you can get quite this could get quite complex. So just you don't make it too complex, because that will make it a little bit harder. I'm going to delete all this now. Crap. Give that a second. I did want to actually show you one thing on that form, because this came up. This came up in another demo that we had done, where you had like this radio button, and drop that in here, and other like this, and then come to the conditional logic. And then what you can do is, when you have the radio button and the value is equal to, because it's a multi-select option, it does actually, it's not a free text box, it does give you that option. And then I could do, for example, then show a field, and then I can show the, where's my radio? There you go, radio other, right? So I can add this kind of logic, for example, to make it that form a bit more intuitive and gather a bit more intelligent information from that. Now, Webhooks. Mike mentioned this, and I'll go into it with the demo here. Everything runs off webhooks. There's no submit actions, there's no save actions anymore. And your only option when you go to create a webhook is to give it you have some options on authentication or basic API key, or even no authentication if you have something simple. And you can give it a name, and you give it a URL, or you give it the connection details. I have one. Let's go ahead and this one. This one doesn't need anything, and then so this test site is literally just, you can just go in, it'll give you a unique URL, and then you can grab any form and you can essentially post some data to it. So here's the one that I created earlier. We'll go into settings. We select a webhook. This is the one I just created. We can submit. We can also add an optional submit action. So we can redirect to a URL, or you can just show a success message, a basic success message. And I can also test it. So this is actually really useful. I can come in here. I can test this form. I can select a page, submit that, and it's going to show me actually what is going to get submitted and to where, right? So this is webhook.test site. I mentioned those field names. This is why. So first name, last name, date of birth, email, and it's then submitting that data in. Again, if you just had text ABC123, text ABC 45678, not so useful on the downward system that you're going to be sending this data to. I can also submit this data, actually. So I've submitted that. I guess I didn't save the submit action, but it does show that up here. And now if I go to this test hook site, you'll see the data that I submitted. And again, just go in here. I'm just going to pull something in here. See the version of that. I didn't say it's a message. See the version of that again. I'll just test that. Submit that. And you'll see the success message has shown. And then my webhook has submitted again. And then again, you got a very random variable name, which is not going to be extremely useful for you at all. Now one more thing. One other thing that you will see here is this apply style to form. So go back to my form. It's currently styled like this. I can go apply. I have a list of styles that are available. I'm just going to select this one because that's the only one I have. I can then go back and see preview. There you go. Okay, it's in preview only, unfortunately. So I've got the stylized form now. I've got some Brazil colors, some green, some yellow, some blue on that form. I can preview all of that. This was one of the new features that was added last month, as Mike mentioned. We can actually go into the style section. I can create a new style, or I can edit an existing one. I have a styles builder. I can go into each field, each section, each checkbox, each label, change the font colors, change the asterisk colors, and that will give me a really nice way of applying some styling to all my forms, and it's very, very consistent. There is a CSS editor as well, so I can go in and actually edit the CSS directly if I need to, rather than using the styles builder. And that gives me, full-on individual granular control over every single element of the form, and gives me consistent styling across all of my forms. So let's go and go to our forms integration. So we created a form. I mentioned earlier that during our presentation in SUGCON Berlin, we built out, using cycle experience forms, we built out a submit action. And one of the submit actions of the few that we created was some post into Slack. And what that did is we used a webhook in Slack to take the form messages, format it in a specific way that we needed, and then submit that into this Slack endpoint. Obviously, experience forms being experience forms, and especially at that time, there was very little documentation. It's very early days. You're then having to go into Sitecore Rocks to edit some form elements in the core database and some UI elements, and it took a little while to figure out. And then we're trying to make just the code itself work. Took a little while. So I wanted to do the same thing here essentially, and figure out. Let's have a look at how much effort it is to build this in this new kind of paradigm of composable forms and webhooks. So what I did is I actually went and created I'm using Zapier in this particular instance, and it literally just have an incoming webhook and a post webhook in this particular case. But you can use any iPaaS system. Sitecore Connect, for example, would be a great one to pair this with. And we can go ahead and test this out. There's nothing clever happening here. It's just a webhook with that. I got an existing draft, but I'll show you. So I have a webhook. It's a catch webhook. It has a trigger, which is there's a webhook URL that we're going to post into. I can actually pull in some records, which I then use in my download systems. It gives me the form data, essentially, and then I can then do something with that. And in this particular case, I'm just taking that data and posting it into Slack. I need to pass in some data. Slack expects the data in a specific format, so it's expecting a payload variable with some data in a JSON format, and that's essentially what I've done. I've taken the data. I can go in and actually there. Yeah, this is my test system from earlier. This is not a good one to use for my payload. This is why I was saying about the payload. What I want to use is actually one of the newer ones. Let's continue with the structure record. Now, when I go to my post and my action, I can go to my message, and then in my message I have a message, so I can just go and pick and choose the bits of the elements that I want. So you can see I've got a first name label, a last name label, an email, and a message label, right? And that will then just go ahead and post it out. I've only got a free version of Zapier here, so it only allows me to do 2 things, but I can do any number of things at this point, right? I can go ahead, send out an email, I can add a record into Salesforce, I can start to add in some conditional logic, if this was submitted or that was submitted, then go ahead and do this. I could even write something custom here, right? And write an Azure function that this calls into, retrieve some specific data, and then goes and does something else after a certain amount of time. The possibilities here are pretty endless. Zapier, Workato, Sitecore Connect, they all have huge numbers of inbuilt functionality, inbuilt integrations. Google Docs, Google Calendars, Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, all of these are going to be available much more than you and I could ever write ourselves at any time. And then from a content authors or a business user's perspective, they haven't had to come to a developer to make these integrations. Somebody needs to know those systems, even if that is another developer or a more technical user than a regular content author. Somebody needs to know what they're integrating with. But again, no code needs to be written usually to do this, or very, very low code needs to be written to make that happen. So once we've got that up and running, I will show you. This will take a little bit of time, but let's save. Okay, I'm going to save and activate this. That is effectively like publishing the form. So that form is now active. I can go to pages. Don't have it open, but let's go back. That's my page. There you go. I'm going to my Pages app in the meantime. I can go to a page. I can go to a component. This is what I didn't have last time. I'm going to remove that. So now I've got my form in here, the form I just created. I can actually just grab that, drag and drop that in. Form appears. I guess I can publish that. But of course, then I'm going to have to wait for a short time while that form publishes. Now, I did publish this earlier, previously from earlier demo, so I'm just going to go ahead and put it in, and then grab a bit of text, and then I can run that. I can submit that. Oh, form wasn't submitted. Probably because I'm still publishing. I'm going to go ahead and do it from in here. But I think should work. All right, so I can again run the test. It's going to show me what's going to submit. Submits, okay, this time the form has been submitted successfully. And now if we head on over to Slack, there you go. We got our, I'm going to get a notification for this and the admin going to kick me out. But that's a form that I literally just submitted, right, using the webhook. No code, right? No code, low code. But as Mike says, there was no code written on this. This will eventually catch up with itself, I'm sure. Yeah, just gonna wait for that publishing, but you get the idea. Yeah, no code was written. It was much easier than like 1,000 times easier, I'd say, than what we had to do with Sitecore experience forms and the submit actions on those. And with that, end of the demo.
All right, so future enhancements that we kind of know about. We're waiting to see some multilingual support. So right now, this might answer one of your questions, Rodrigo. But right now, if you want multilingual support, I think you have to build separate forms for each one. Isn't that correct? Yeah. So you kind of stuck with that for now. Maybe it is coming. We just have to wait for Sitecore to roll it out, and we'll magically get that. Conditional logic was added in. This was on our slide before. They did roll it in, and it's some of the stuff is slated for their future, so definitely just keep an eye on it. Custom fields. This is another question of yours, Rodrigo. Right now, you cannot create custom fields or extension of fields or modify fields, but they are coming in the future. There is a little stub there where it says custom in terms, when you look at the fields list, there's a little section that says custom. That's telling us it's coming. I mean, they're going to add that in eventually. Yeah, you can show that real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, I can show that real quick. There's, I need a form that it's not been edited.
Right.
Yeah, that's one of the annoying bits. Yeah, so. Yeah, there's a custom section here. Yeah, one of the annoying things is once a form has been activated, and we'll mention that again, you can't edit it. It's really annoying. Right? I can't edit it. The only thing I can do is actually save it as a template, or I can duplicate it. I can duplicate it. Same with multilingual forms, right? You can duplicate stuff, but you can't. Yeah, there's no multilingual, and you can't edit a form once it's been.
And then the next thing kind of ties into Eduardo's question and also partly to Rodrigo's other question. Right now, there is really no analytics on any forms or fields or anything like that. It is coming. We just have to wait for it to come out. I don't know if this would be able to. Eduardo, you were talking specifically about triggering a goal from like what you would see in XDV. I don't know if that's coming because there really isn't XDB in XM Cloud. Is that correct? But maybe there's
correct. Yeah.
yeah.
And then it'd have to be CDP or personalized, and there's no integration into that at the moment.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe they'll come up with something similar to that, and maybe you can trigger it like a goal or something from a form submission. But right now, there's nothing like that. And then JS embed code to just drop JavaScript on a page to embed a form. That's also hopefully coming in the future. Sure.
Yeah, and if they had that, that would be great because then you could use it on XP or XL, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is what we really want to see. Like these are like, yes, please listen to us. We want these now. Pam just mentioned this. Once a form is published, you can't edit it. You're kind of stuck with it. You have to duplicate it and start over again or whatever, something like that. It would be nice to just go in and just edit something. Let's say you have a typo, you missed it. The form's been out there for a week. I know this sounds like something that's probably never going to happen, but it could happen. And you notice it and you're like, oh, that looks so unprofessional. I need to fix that. Well, you're going to have to spin up a whole new form and just go put it out there and just take down the old one. We want to see the ability to edit forms, and they probably did that for a reason. I don't know the specifics, but I'm sure there was a good reason for it, although it would be nice to edit forms once they're live, as you can do in any other form builder that Sitecore has introduced to date. There's no way to archive a form when you're done with it, and if it's old, you could do that in the other form builders. Hopefully somebody from Sitecore is listening to this. We'd love to see that. Also, you can't migrate forms from one environment to another. You have to rebuild them in each environment, which kind of is a pain because you're going to have to spend, let's say you built a multi-page form and it took you 3 hours. You're going to have to spend probably another 3 hours in another environment, although you'll get really better and better at it and get faster. But at the end of the day, it's probably really annoying. You're going to get calluses on your fingers. There's no way to create forms using API calls or anything like that. Some people would love to see something like that. I don't know if Sitecore would be interested in that, but that's something that some customers
that might also help with the form migration between environments. If you have an API,
you can create SPE scripts to help with that stuff. Maybe it totally would make sense. And then recipes, using Sitecore Connect for webhooks. Sitecore Connect has a concept of recipes that would be nice to integrate into that. And then
again, for the Connect recipes, it'd be good again, like somebody asked about the triggering goals and things. So if there was a Connect recipe to, hey, when this form is submitted, go and trigger this other goal or campaign in personalize the CDP, right? Then that would be something neat, I think, and that would solve that issue.
And then what would be really cool to see artificial intelligence support to generate forms, but that sounds way too futuristic. Although AI is here, you never know. Maybe there'll be a use case for this, but it would be nice to see something like that. Think about it. You have artificial intelligence and an algorithm running to kind of learn a lot from customers aggregately and then spin up a form to do something from the information it learned. That would be kind of cool.
Or maybe we'll get an extension for MVPinny, right? But we can
there you go.
Put that out AI form generator.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. All right. Any questions? We have a lot of questions, actually.
Yeah.
We covered custom fields. This is from Rodrigo. Is the page layout visible in the form editor?
Yeah, we saw that it is.
Yeah. For the most part, it is. It is. You see what you get.
Yeah. Well, once you activate the form, it then automatically becomes available in Pages, and then you can just drag and drop it in there. I did think about this in terms of this getting long, but as somebody pointed out, you can. There is a search, so you can at least narrow it down
Yeah.
by using the search. But if you had like 50 forms, then you'd have a list of 50 in here, right? Which would be pretty big.
Can you inject external CSS files for this as
Not
well?
into this styles, but of course you could into pages, right? Not into the builder at this moment in time, but what you would be able to do in the builder itself is to obviously just go and create your own set of styles, and you can just plug in the CSS that you want in here from whatever that system is. But in pages, of course, it would do that anyway.
Another question, I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, but it was a little implicit, but managing data sources for custom list fields, like, not custom list fields like drop downs and things like that, or radio button lists, you kind of have to do it right on the form. It's all static and it gets right there, and you can add the options. So that's how you do it. You can't tie into the CMS, if that's where you're getting at, Rodrigo.
Or to any place like external web API or anything? Okay.
No, it's all like it's completely composable and isolated within itself. That's by design.
Yeah, it would be nice. I know what Rodrigo is saying. It would be nice saying, hey, you can find the data for this field at this API endpoint, right? For example, it just returns or something like that. That would be
like a counter list.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, low-level logs of usage. I think Mike mentioned that there's nothing really at the moment. There is views and submissions at 0 and 0, but that's about as much as you're going to get on the analytics side of things. Obviously, you can hook into your own Google Analytics and things like that, and track those. Multilingual, and again, he mentioned it's not. It's not. Yeah. Is it possible to track user actions like trigger a goal on a form submit? Yeah, so at the moment, no. There are like I said, no ways to trigger goals on the form submit. It has to be on that webhook. And then again, I mentioned if I haven't checked, maybe there was something in Sitecore Connect or some sort of a recipe to connect that up with TDP or something. Yeah, that'd be neat.
You do have one last question. Is it possible to pre-fill form fields?
Yes, not cleverly, I guess, is the answer. Because I can set a pre-fill value, but that pre-fill value is not going to be useful unless it's just me.
You can't use some kind of like logic to do it, like some kind of like
not
external thing. I know you can't use anything external, but some kind of like, lack of a better term, a data provider to do that. Say, hey, I have this stuff, put it in these fields here and there. I guess you can't do that.
Yeah, no. So there isn't anything that I've seen at this moment in time to do that. And then if you were, you could obviously build your own JavaScript logic, or in your own site that goes and does it, but then that's not so good because then you're hard coding some JavaScript for this specific form, and that doesn't make it as dynamic as we'd all like it to be, right?
Right.
If you go to the logic again, and there's a drop down of actions that you can do, what are the available ones? Show hide.
So hide field, show field, make it field required, yeah. And again, the other thing that was raised in a previous instance, somebody mentioned it would be nice if I could do hide this entire section, right? Entire. So if I had a multi-page form of if they select other, then don't show page 3, for example. Skip to page 4.
Is there any possibility for custom validations? There is a new question. Custom validations.
The only option for validations is regular expression. So
regex.
Good old friend regex. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it might be easy to do simple things and nothing complex. So it's part of that question. Can you limit it to email addresses to certain domains? I guess you could do that with the regex, but if you want to do something really complex, probably nothing beyond anything like that. You might have a regex this big. I don't know. I mean, I've seen them. You don't want to mess with that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, you get them of things like postcodes, right? Like it's going to be a specific format and stuff like that.
Right.
Zip codes are really, right? Because it's just like 5 numbers. But
They're just numbers. But
yeah.
postcodes could have meanings behind them.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Maybe another item for the wish list could be JavaScript instead of as an alternative to regex for the accepting some code that you can drop, but it becomes a little more code or low code.
Yeah, and then maybe if they accept the JavaScript, the prefill becomes a better option, right? Because I can then prefill it from my own API endpoint or something, right? Or based on the current user that's logged in, right? Or something like that. I can add in some cleaner logic on that. But hopefully, once this custom thing becomes a bit more obvious what's supposed to happen on that. Because again, if I'm going to add a custom field, they have to allow me a way to add a custom field without deploying any code. Right?
Yeah.
So the way I've seen it in other systems is you have let's say a JavaScript file that's hosted somewhere externally, maybe on your own website, maybe in a GitHub repo, maybe in somewhere else, and you point it to that file and you say, you can find the custom field here, and then it brings that in and runs that logic or something like that. But I'd be interested to see how they tackle this and
give it JSON, give it JavaScript, and put in a big eval function call. Yeah, don't do that.
And then Mike can finally have his credit card field back, so he'll be happy.
I'm gonna put in that wish list feature request today. Okay. Well, thank you so much for having us. Appreciate it so much.
All right, guys, thanks so much. It was a pleasure having you in the Sitecore Group Brazil. This is being recorded and will be available for our legacy as well. And the whole community will be able to come. We had a top of 15 attendees today, and tonight, and we are so glad that all the people from Brazil, some people from also South American countries like Ecuador. Again, this guy is always, Ramiro Batalha is here. Other people also come, Fernando Torres. We're so glad to have you all, and we'll see each other soon. There will be the symposium in Nashville. For those who can't stand of having me singing, right, Kamruz? It will be impossible to avoid in the next symposium. All right, thank you so much, guys. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, guys. Thank you for attending.
Have a great night. Thank you. Cheers.
Good night.